As a lot of you know, this is the start. It's number one of a series of a collaborative private label product launch that we're going to do totally transparent.
It all began in 2015 when our CEO, Greg Mercer, had the idea for the case study.
All right, let's do the thing.
At the time, it was called the Collaborative Product Launch.
There was some educational resources about selling on Amazon at the time. However, none of them would actually share what products they were selling. So I was like, you know what? Why don't we just do a product launch in real time, really pull back the curtain so they can see the actual product, actually how we source it. They can follow along with the entire journey and then ultimately see how the product sells on Amazon.
So the first product chosen was bamboo marshmallow sticks, which we called the Jungle Sticks. To date, they're still our best-selling product. Greg showed everything live from start to finish on how he found this product and launched it on Amazon.
Again, may have been a little skeptical. I think he may have been a little skeptical because he's like, we're launching this product in front of the entire world. What if it doesn't go well? Doesn't that look really bad on us? And it's like, there's always a chance of that happening. But like I said, I was quite confident in the Jungle Scout tool, as well as just the methodologies that I've learned to launch products.
So many people were inspired, and this really began a wave of entrepreneurship in e-commerce. Because of the success of the series, Greg wanted to launch another product, but he had a loftier goal this time. And this is when the $1 Million Case Study was born. The idea was to keep launching products until we reached $1 million in sales and give all the profits to charity along the way. This season saw the launch of the baby hooded towels, or Jungle Snugs, which again was a huge success. We then began to think about a third season and what it could potentially look like. So that's when we had the idea to expand into international markets. Greg was joined by Kim, and together they launched the Jungle Slumbers, which was sleeping bags in the UK Amazon market. Now at this point, we'd hosted 3 seasons and launched 3 different products. We wanted to continue the case study because we hadn't reached our goal of $1 million yet, and we could see how the Amazon landscape was changing every single year. So we wanted to make sure that our education was up to date. So we started thinking about season 4, but we're wondering what we could do differently.
This isn't called the $750,000 case study. We're going to $1 million and we need one more product to help us get there a little bit faster.
So we ended up taking yet another approach to launching a product, and that was to sell a higher priced product with a significant improvement or innovation to it. Rolando joined Greg this season, and together they launched the Jungle Sliders, keyboard slider trays into the US market. Education has always been one of the main themes of the $1 Million Case Study. We've not only helped entrepreneurs get started on Amazon, but also given back to a variety of charities. The first charity that we chose was Doctors Without Borders. Following that, we decided to donate to Pencils of Promise, who build schools in underserved communities. It was then in the summer of 2018, we officially completed construction of a school in Ghana from the proceeds of the case study. So again, this season, we're gonna donate all the profits from our new product to charity, and we're gonna get your help in deciding which one. So stay tuned for that.
I think the $1 Million Case Study is at a bit of a turning point. One, because I think we're just about at the $1 million of revenue. That doesn't mean we have to stop, but it does mean that we met the original goal. I don't know exactly the best option for season 5. One thing that's for sure is we just want to structure or to build it in such a way that it's like the most helpful piece of content on the internet for building an Amazon business.
That brings us to season 5, 2020. So by the end of this episode, you're gonna find out exactly what criteria I'm gonna be using to find our latest product. Let's get to it. Imagine a blueprint, a step-by-step guide, a case study where we peel back the curtains and show you what it takes to sell on Amazon. Welcome to the $1 Million Case Study. What does it really take to sell on Amazon? Thousands of people start on this journey, but only a small few end up following through. Why is that? All the information is out there. What's the difference between someone that is successful and that isn't? That's the question I'm going to explore this season. While working at Jungle Scout and being an Amazon seller myself, we're always aiming to stay ahead of the game and offer our audience extra insights into the process. We've seen a lot of changes in the Amazon space over the years and how important it is to keep ahead of them. So with this series, you're gonna see over my shoulder as I launch a new product on Amazon. We're also gonna get into the nitty-gritty, showing you the thinking behind each step in a way that we've never done before. I'm gonna have guests along the way to share their perspectives, and we're gonna sit down and have Amazon Real Talk, discussing the pretty and the not so pretty side of selling on Amazon. First up, tell me, how did you get started on Amazon? What's the story?
Sure. So my journey started back in 2014. I was in university at that time too. My goal was to get a government job and to get a good salary, hopefully. And I had no idea that people were making money online or had online businesses.
Yeah, so I am a recovering physical therapist. I used to have my own company and it was great. It was my first experience with business, but it wasn't for me. And then Amazon came around 2015, 2016, and that's where I fell in love with e-commerce.
So I got started selling on Amazon in a very public, different way. I started the Seller Diaries series on our Instagram, where I kind of just vlogged my process of becoming an Amazon seller, the ups and downs of everything.
I was starting a business with some partners, and that business ended up failing. It was a tech startup. But to make a long story short, I was searching for an opportunity, and I actually had pulled my back, and so I was bedridden. And I was just like, I remember I did a Google search, businesses that you could do online, and different opportunities came up. But the one that stood out to me the most was selling on Amazon.
You know, I was working a crappy job that I wasn't happy with. And I was looking for ways to make some money online. So I was doing some Google searches, and I believe I came across an article on selling on eBay. And then eventually I figured out that you can sell on Amazon as well.
I was working for a retailer, and I kind of had a monotonous job. So download podcasts all the time and listen to them while I worked. And I was listening to a podcast that was talking about a couple in California who were buying and reselling a discontinued flavor of Crystal Light on Amazon. And they made, I want to say it was like 30 grand or something, and it piqued my interest.
Back in the day, I used to make all of my revenue from my own e-commerce store. And then one day, my buddy Lars, he was just hounding me to try selling on Amazon. He's like, just list a couple of products on Amazon. Just list a couple of products. Because for the longest time, my philosophy was I want to own my website. I want to own my email list and that sort of thing. But I took his advice and I just listed a couple of items on, and instantly they shot up and started making, I think I made like $10,000 or something with just a handful of products, doing nothing. And after that, I was hooked.
This is what I love about this business. People from all different walks of life find it in all different sorts of ways. But regardless of how you find the opportunity, it all starts with product research. Now, most people find this the most challenging part of the entire process. So I'm gonna make sure to spend a lot of time on this topic to ensure that you're as successful as possible. So let me start with the characteristics of a good product so that you know exactly what to look for. First up are what we'd call must-haves. These are the most important criteria. And the first one is existing solid demand, which means a lot of people are already buying the product. High number of existing sales on a regular basis. You don't want to put in all this effort and then no one buys your product. Low competition. Now, while you want high demand, you also want low competition. This means that not too many other listings with hundreds or thousands of reviews. This would make it much harder for you to jump in and make good sales. Next up is good margins. You need to make sure you have a healthy profit margin. This is the most important part of this business. You need a healthy profit because your whole goal here is to make money, of course, and the amount of effort is the same regardless of whether you have a low profit or a high profit. So you want to make sure that there's a good profit margin. A rough rule of thumb is the rule of thirds. Aim to source a product for about a third of the selling price. Amazon's fees will likely take up another third. And finally, this leaves a third for you as profit. We'll explore this in more detail, but this is an easy way to think about it. No legal issues. This means not selling products that have a patent or trademark. If you do, your listing could get taken down, your account could get suspended, and you could even face legal action. Ability to improve. This means setting your product apart from the competition through improving the product or bundling it with a complementary product. A good way to find improvements is to look at the 1-star and 2-star reviews on existing listings and seeing what people don't like about that product. A good way to find a product to bundle with is to visit the frequently bought section on an Amazon listing. These tend to be great items to bundle together. This can help you make more sales, charge a higher price, and even hold off the competition. And don't worry, I'm gonna go into much more detail as we go through the process. Next up are nice to haves. While not as important as the must haves, they're of course nice to have. The first one is small and lightweight. These items are cheaper in shipping, the Amazon fees are less, and are just easier overall. Easy to source and ship. This means not an item that you've invented and have to produce from scratch. It already exists, and there's existing suppliers for this product. Low seasonality. This means the product sells consistently all year round. You can sell seasonal products if you're experienced, but they do tend to be a little trickier to launch and to sell. Simple and durable. This means it doesn't have a lot of moving parts and it's not easily breakable. For example, think of electronics and wine glasses versus a spatula. One is very simple, the others have a lot more chance of breaking or going wrong. Weird and interesting. As a general rule, the most popular products out there tend to be super competitive, and it's often the lesser known products that you wouldn't think of that tend to do very well on Amazon. You'll see some examples of these as I go through some product research.
How did you go from physical therapy to discovering and selling on Amazon?
I had a coach who was telling me that I was spinning my wheels in physical therapy because I had a lot of energy towards the business, but there were so many moving parts. There was insurance you had to deal with, all sorts of things. So he said, I see you in importing and exporting, and I had no idea, Lenny, what he was talking about. That very next day, I saw an advertisement for eBay of all things. It was this really amazing video of him taking his children to Disney World and living this lifestyle and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, you know what? This is better than what I'm currently doing right now. Let me give it a shot.
And so I discovered the opportunity of selling on Amazon through my boyfriend, Stefan, because he also had an online business. And we discovered a program that teaches people step by step. So I started to take the program and I decided to launch my first product.
I knew when I started Jungle Scout, I didn't even know, honestly, that how Amazon worked or how these third-party sellers were selling products and people were making money behind the scenes kind of thing. And then when I learned about it, I was like, I could do this. And I was kind of worked with Jungle Scout for a year. Then I was like, you know what? I really think I can do it. And I kind of jumped in and learned the ropes and shared it with everybody too.
Ironically enough, it was a YouTube video of Greg going through the process of launching their very first $1 million case study product, which was the bamboo sticks. And lo and behold, I just follow along. There was already a few episodes that had passed, but I caught up fairly quickly. And I just kind of stayed on it and learned everything from the $1 million case study, applied it, and launched my very first product.
I kind of always knew that I would run a business with my brother someday. We're both very entrepreneurial, and I just felt like that would happen. So I asked him if he wanted to do it with me. He said yes, and we started doing retail arbitrage because that's the business model I learned about. We used retail arbitrage to kind of get experience and build capital for the investment in our private label business, and then we transferred over and have been doing it ever since, about almost 5 years now.
I figured out that you can do retail arbitrage, so that's what I jumped into. Selling some used books and some things from Walmart and Target and things like that, and that was doing okay. And I wanted to figure out a way so I don't have to go into retail stores all the time and look for profitable products. And I think that's when I discovered Jungle Scout, actually 4 or 5 years ago, and tried to go the private label route. Now I'm also doing some private label as well as some wholesale today.
Drop shipping was a flop, but that led into retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, and then eventually I decided to go into my own business and started selling litter products because I have a cat. And that sort of was an easy product to test on my cat, and one thing led to another, and here I am today.
It wasn't an easy journey. It took me many years before I started making significant income on Amazon. It didn't happen overnight, but it was a learning process, and it's totally worth it. I'm so grateful for the business today, and it's such an amazing opportunity for people to create a new income stream, especially to create income online.
So you've heard these terms like private label, wholesaling, arbitrage, but what do they all mean? Well, these are the different ways that you can sell on Amazon. Let me break them down. It essentially comes down to where you purchase your products from and then how they're fulfilled. So the first one, private label. This is where you purchase straight from the factory. You're gonna create your own brand and product and sell that on a brand new listing that you create. The second way, wholesaling, is where you purchase direct from a wholesaler of an existing product and you then sell their product on Amazon. This can be a cheaper and quicker way to get started than private label. However, you're usually competing with lots of other sellers trying to sell that same product, and therefore the profit margins are generally lower. The other challenge with wholesaling is that a lot of the more popular products, these companies are already selling their product directly on Amazon themselves, so it's hard to compete with them on pricing. The third option here is retail arbitrage, where you purchase from somewhere like Walmart or other places where they have goods on clearance. You look for items that are selling full price on Amazon, purchase it on clearance, and then you make a profit on that difference. So a lot of people use this as a way to learn the ropes of Amazon and start making a bit of money quickly without much investment at all. The problem is that it's not a very scalable business model, as you still have to go out there every day looking for new products to sell. And ultimately, you're still exchanging your time for dollars as opposed to building a system that will generate money for you. So my favorite method, and what I'm gonna be doing throughout this case study, is the private label model. I believe that this is the best way to build a long-term, scalable business where you're ultimately creating an asset that you could later on sell. Now, a lot of people often ask, well, which categories should I sell in, or what types of products should I sell? So now I also want to give you some additional things to think about as you're choosing your product, such as kind of the things that we don't recommend you sell. I'm not here to give you hard and fast rules about not selling these types of items, but I did want to bring to light some of the challenges that might arise with selling some of these. So I don't recommend selling highly competitive products. This isn't to say that it's impossible to compete in a competitive market, but usually it takes a lot more money and a lot more effort. However, if you do have the money and the skills to compete with these competitive products, then you don't necessarily have to completely rule them out. But for beginners, however, this is definitely not something that I'd recommend. I also don't recommend selling seasonal products. Think of Halloween products or Christmas trees, that sort of thing. It is really tricky to rank seasonally, as your ranking suffers a lot throughout the year when you're not selling that product. Then when you want to relaunch, let's say for the Christmas season, you're going to need to implement a lot of advanced strategies to get yourself ranked in order to compete with the other seasonal products. So again, for beginners, this isn't something that I'd recommend you sell. I'd recommend you sell products that sell consistently year round. I also don't recommend selling food, drinks, supplements, topicals, basically anything that goes in or on your body. These are very competitive niches, and then they also come with more liability. You know, you'd hate it if someone were to get sick and then come back and try to sue you for one of these types of products. Next, when it comes to media, I don't recommend selling things such as books or music, because you usually have to create those yourself. So unless you want to write a book or sing a song, this probably isn't the category for you. Clothing, shoes, or handbags are also a very competitive category, and most people have brand loyalty to these types of items. It's also more expensive to start off with these items, as you need to purchase inventory for a variety of sizes and colors, so this category usually has a much higher initial investment. Complicated or complex items such as electronics, computers, appliances, watches, etc. tend to be more complicated to sell as well. You wouldn't want an entire shipment of electronics to arrive at the Amazon warehouse and then the product doesn't work. We usually recommend leaving these types of more complicated items with a lot of moving parts to more experienced sellers. I'd also recommend thinking about any potential liabilities that could come with a product. For example, if you're gonna sell a baby car seat, there's potentially a lot of liability with a product like that. Usually we'd recommend staying away from items like this, as there's again a lot of potential for lawsuits and so on if something malfunctions. Just think about what is the worst possible thing that could happen with this particular item. If it's something that you feel someone could sue you for, then I'd probably steer clear of it. Now, does anyone remember fidget spinners? They came onto the market super fast and were all the rage. Then no one wanted them anymore, and lots of sellers were stuck with loads of inventory. I'd usually recommend staying away from fad type items as they come and go quickly. Right now, lots of people might be trying to sell coronavirus related items, but they aren't guaranteed to sell long term, as we don't know how long this virus will last. That's why we say to stick to items that have more long-term potential. Now, a lot of people ask us if they can sell a product that has a Disney character or their favorite football team on it. The answer to that is you can, only if you have permission and a licensing deal to do so. So if you don't have that in place, I'd recommend staying away from anything that needs to be licensed. This also extends to products that have a patent or a trademark, like I talked about earlier. Now, new sellers always ask, how can I narrow down my product idea list? So here are some questions that you can ask yourself about your potential product. If a product fits the majority of the guidelines that I mentioned, then it probably has great selling potential. The first question is, can I read the reviews about this product and make improvements? Can I bundle my product with something else? Will this product give a decent profit margin after taking into consideration FBA fees, cost of goods, shipping, and PPC? Is this product selling for a reasonable price on Alibaba? Are factories that I've contacted willing to make adjustments for me? Does Google Trends show an upward trend or at least a steady trend for this product? Does the sales history for the top 10 sellers show steady sales over time? Now, you don't have to check off every single one of these, but the idea is that these questions give you some more things to think about, which could increase the potential of your product. Don't worry if you don't understand one of those questions. I'm gonna go through how to check all of these things as the case study goes on. Now, a recurring theme throughout everything that I've talked about today is that there's no one size fits all. I've given you guys a whole list of considerations and rules of thumb, but I do think it's important to emphasize that in reality, you're not gonna check every single box. So I wanna make sure that you do your product research, tick as many of these boxes as you can, weighing up the pros and cons of your top products, and then ultimately make a decision and go for it. I definitely encourage you to be as thorough as possible in the research stage, but I also don't want you to get stuck in analysis paralysis. The items that I've mentioned today should increase your chances of success, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee it, and part of entrepreneurship is just taking that leap of faith. You can only prepare so much, but your best teacher will be jumping in and doing it, getting that first-hand experience of launching a product so that every product after that will get even better and better. All right, so that's the criteria that I'm gonna be using to find our winning product for this season. Now it's your turn. If you've been thinking about selling on Amazon, today is the day to start. Don't wait, listen to what I'm sharing, but remember that knowledge isn't power unless it's applied. So take what you've learned here and get started on your own product research, beginning with that initial list of product ideas. Now, if you want to follow along with the case study, then check the description below this video for more resources. We have a private Facebook group for anyone that wants to take the $1 Million Case Study Challenge as well and follow along with me. And it's all totally free. Now, if you've gotten some value from this episode, please give me a big thumbs up below. Make sure you're subscribed as well and hit that bell icon so you get notified when new episodes go live. In the next episode of the $1 Million Case Study, my friend Carrie comes to town, find out how I rope her into doing product research with me, find out which category we start searching in for the next case study product, and it may just break one of the rules I shared with you today. But you have to tune in to find out. I'll see you then. We're doing a sound test. Hell's up.